How's it going, everybody? It's Pride here, and welcome back to another video. This one is going to be a little bit different. Today we're going to be talking about the big event, UFC 229. Primarily going to be talking about Conor versus Khabib, because what a fucking wild night, huh? Who the shit would have thought that was going to happen? I definitely did not. That was like at the bottom of the list of things I expected to happen in that fight. So I guess before we get into that main fight, probably the best fight of the night, Tony versus Anthony Pettis. Great fight. My favorite fight for sure. Such a bummer that Pettis broke his hand. I think that could have gone on to be, way more than it was, since, a little bit in the beginning, you kind of saw Pettis outstriking Tony Ferguson a little bit. A lot of those leg kicks started coming out, and every time he threw a leg kick, I kind of cringed a little bit, because if you know about, the whole situation that Tony went through, he was injured, horribly injured his knee about 5 months ago. 5 months is such a little amount of time to recover that horrific knee injury that he had. Like, every time he threw a kick and every time he checked a kick or got kicked himself, I just was expecting something horrible to happen. But that guy is the fucking toughest. Seriously. And I truly believe that he is second to Khabib in that division. Probably would give Khabib the best competition. They've tried to make that fight, I think, 4 or 5 times, and it hasn't happened. Something always happened. One of them gets injured. One of them can't make weight properly. It's such a bummer. I really hope they make that fight, because I think that is a fight that needs to happen. That'll be easily my most anticipated fight, even over Conor Khabib. And I love Conor too. I'm not a Conor hater, but I did go into this hoping that Khabib was going to win and expecting Khabib to win. He's just on a different level with his wrestling. He's been on this crazy win streak, 26-0, 27-0 now, I believe. Never lost a round. So going in there and just getting starched by a guy who has been out for 2 years, even if it is Conor, I thought that would be really disappointing. And I would feel too bad for Khabib, especially after, so many years of hard work. But it pretty much went the way I expected it. For the most part, Khabib dominated him completely on the ground, just wrestled him. The most surprising part was that overhand right that he threw. I think it was in round 2 or 3 that he actually dropped Conor. That was when I think everybody went, oh shit, because I kind of thought that he might have knocked him out, and then he jumped right back up. It was probably like a huge surprise, because he kind of threw a feint, and then he went for kind of like that takedown. Then Conor kind of, moved back a little bit, moved his arms down, and then that overhand right came out right on the chin, dropped him. Now, I definitely think that Conor actually did better than I expected when it comes to the defense, especially on the ground. Like, he didn't get destroyed round 1. I mean, he got, beat down. He got out-wrestled completely. Khabib did whatever he wanted when it came to the wrestling, but there wasn't much ground and pound that came later on in like round 2 and I think it was 4 where he beat him. One thing that was kind of weird, and by the way, if you go watch that, he's like cheating the whole way through. He's continuously grabbing his pants, grabbing the cage, throwing knees on the ground that are illegal. I mean, if you don't get caught, I always think it's one of those things, if you don't get caught, then it's not cheating. When it comes to something like fighting in the UFC, doing MMA, I think he's solid. He got caught a couple times. Khabib called him out, especially for the, glove grabbing and stuff. I don't blame him for anything like that. Now, throughout the fight, it did kind of seem like Conor wasn't as sharp as he usually is. I think the most surprising part was Khabib was kind of always standing in front of him whenever they were standing and they were in wrestling. He was always in front of him, man. And, there wasn't that accuracy that was there before against, like Eddie Alvarez or Nate Diaz, that counter hit. And people have been blaming him, especially in, round 4 or the 3rd round. I mean, he did it well in the 3rd round. By the way, arguably, this is Khabib's toughest fight. And the reason for that, I think, is crazier than that fact that it is his tougher fight. And that is because Conor won 1 round. He got destroyed and submitted, yet that was his toughest fight. I think that's insane. That kind of just goes to show how dominant Khabib is. But he was always standing with him, man. He was always standing with him. There wasn't really any counters. He did get the shit beat out of his face, neck, chest, stomach, which, you know, could have hindered a little bit of that. And that's kind of what I was thinking. Maybe after he got the shit beat out of him a little bit, you know, he was a little bit daisy. It seemed like maybe he kind of was like, oh shit, I may not win this after like the 4th round, or in the 4th round, I should say. And I would 100% watch a rematch. I think, you know, I think the same thing would happen 100%. The same thing would happen. It might be a better fight. I think it would be a better fight. Do they do that rematch again after Khabib's suspension, which 100% is going to happen? Who knows? Who knows? I would rather see Tony versus Khabib, to be honest, and then Conor versus Nate. That's just my opinion. Now, the biggest part of the night wasn't, you know, winning a fight against Conor, completely destroying him. It was the situation that happened, the antics of Khabib after the fight, where he jumped over the fence and attacked one of the guys in Khabib's corner, or in Conor's corner, sorry, which is a fighter in a different organization, that blonde-haired douche guy. I was pretty much shocked the whole time that was happening. I think the first thing that came into my head is, well, that guy just kind of ruined his night, big portion of his legacy, just doing that and giving into his emotions. And it's kind of understandable. You know, I don't think he's ever been shit-talked the way he was shit-talked, you know, during this fight. Nobody ever really attacked his religion and his whole people. His father called him terrorist. I don't think that ever really happened with any other opponent. So it definitely got to him. And it just kind of, you know, those emotions boiled way over, jumped over the fence, flying kick to this guy's face. And it is really a shame. And I think the thing I feel most is just really bad for Khabib, because if he wouldn't have done that, everything is fine that he did after. He was in Conor's face. I think that's 100% okay. Yelling at him, even throwing the mouthpiece, that was completely fine. If he would have done that and then just stayed in the cage and just, you know, not even acknowledge Conor, that would have been cool. Put up his belt. The whole stadium would have gone wild. Even the Conor fans, I think, would have applauded for him, because after all that happened, all the bus attack shit, which, by the way, in my opinion, is much worse than what Khabib did. After all of that, I think that would have been a huge win, would have cemented his legacy even more so, and would have pretty much been able to do whatever he wanted. Huge megastar. And now, basically what he did was made Conor the good guy. Even though he wasn't, if you watch a lot of that tape, he threw a couple punches himself, which, I mean, is fine. When you look at it, you see that there's people going in there. The first guy, I think Conor punched, but that was after Khabib was Khabib 100% is the person to blame for this. He jumped over. He shouldn't have done that. But then when you see in the footage, you see Conor trying to jump over the fence himself, and he gets stopped. He would have definitely jumped over the fence, jumped in there himself like an idiot, even though he was probably half dazed, almost knocked out. And then you have one of Khabib's teams going up on the fence. I don't think to do anything to Conor. He was probably going to maybe even try to jump over himself and try to stop Khabib. And then, you know, Conor gave him a swift left, which was beautiful, by the way. The form was just... And then after that, the guy tried to punch Conor. Then a different guy jumped in, and you could see him kind of like cowering behind people and hiding to try to get a surprise on Conor. And then Conor sees him. There was a swift left again, catches him, and then the fucking pussy-ass coward who jumps in from behind to hit him in the back of the fucking head. Like, that was the most cowardice shit I've ever seen. A couple of those, I believe, were also fighters from the UFC, and I mean, they immediately are not going to fight ever again in the UFC. Who knows if they ever fight in any organization again, maybe even get their visas retracted. But then things kind of calmed down a little bit. Conor got taken out of the stadium. Then they had Khabib escorted out without putting the belt on him. It was really a sour end. By the way, if you paid for it, then I feel like you got your money's worth, because that fight kind of made it worth the what was it, like 60, 70 bucks? That definitely made it worth it at the end, in my opinion. But it definitely was a sour end to the night. You know, he didn't get his huge moment. This should have been his moment. 27-0, beat the guy who people, he was kind of a betting favorite over Conor, just slightly, I believe. And after a 2-year layoff, and I believe it's just because, you know, Conor does some crazy shit. You know, he came back, beat Eddie Alvarez perfectly to get the second belt. And then the whole situation with, you know, Jose Aldo people gave Conor the benefit of the doubt. And even though Khabib did win, you know, he didn't get the belt put on him. He's probably going to get suspended for, if he's lucky, like 6-7 months. He'll probably get a 1-year suspension. I don't think he gets his visa retracted. I feel like fucking Boone's going to cut right in there. What, did you just say you were going to take Khabib's visa? One call, and that's it. You're solid, Khabib. You're staying in this country. But the sad part is he is probably going to get stripped of his title. What I'm guessing is going to happen, he's going to get stripped of his title. Nate is going to fight Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier is probably going to win. Tony Ferguson's going to fight Dustin Poirier for the title. I'd say Tony wins that one. And then, you know, whoever comes back, either Conor or Khabib first, they're going to fight Tony for the championship. Which, I mean, it's kind of good. Again, like, there's good fights that would happen there. But it's still, like, I didn't want Khabib to lose his belt. I hope he doesn't lose his belt. Like, if he gets anything more than, like, 6 months, I'm assuming they would strip him of his belt because he can't hold up the division. But what a fucking crazy fight. A good UFC card, man. The fights were insane. They were really good. That Derek Lewis versus Volkan fight, ridiculous. One of the craziest knockouts I've ever seen for sure. Last 10 seconds after getting dominated, having like an injured eye, the dude knocks him out in the last 10 seconds with one punch, and then he takes off his pants because his balls were hot. So it was a good fight. Overall, great card. And we'll see what happens with Khabib. Like I said, I'm guessing he's going to get 1-year suspension, get stripped of the title, and then a bunch of different fights are going to be made. Does Conor deserve a rematch? Yeah, I do think he does. And I'll definitely be buying that card. Either way, guys, a little bit different of a video. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on the whole situation, the whole fight card, that fight itself, what happened after the fight. Let me know in the comments if you want. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you all later. Peace, everybody.